Welcome. It's a glorious sunny day here. I hope the weather is nice for wherever you are. We're here today running the webinar to discuss the 2020 trends, high value tech driving engagement and growth. So welcome. In case any of you haven't ever seen Zoom before, which I can't believe, but all your microphones will be muted. However, we would like you to engage with us. And if you have questions at the bottom, you can use the chat feature and either send questions through to everyone or pick one of the co-hosts that are joining me today. Lisa would be your first choice, and Lisa will be able to field questions to us at the relevant times. So please do ask questions as and when they come up. Okay, let's talk about what this webinar is all about. So we ran a survey. We sent out this survey to 1,500 managers at mid-sized law firms, mainly in the UK and the US. We were interested in finding out what their current trends were, what emerging technologies were being used, and how much they knew about their competition and what they was hoping to achieve going forward. The report discusses lots of the best practices and successes, so how BD teams can look at practice efficiency, reducing costs and sales performance. If you would like a copy of the full report, then please do send an email to sales@fliplet.com and we'll make sure that a copy of it is sent out. So today, who have we got? We've got myself. I'm the commercial director here at Fliplet. I'm going to be giving you just a very brief introduction to a couple of the statistics that came out of the survey, just to whet your appetite and hopefully encourage you to want to learn more about the report. And at the end, I'm going to give a quick demonstration of how one of the a prefab app, how quickly it can be produced on Fliplet. And the demo I'm going to do is on a business development pitch and proposal app. Before that though, we have Jacqueline from Blank Rome, who's going to be talking about some success stories, how long they've been working with Fliplet and what they've achieved over their time with us. And we've also got Nathan Wilkins. He's from 1404, but experienced and worked with firms such as Bird & Bird and Taylor Wessing, who's going to be giving you some really insightful tips and tricks into how to make digital marketing work for you. So without further ado, let's have a look. So this report, as I say, is available now. Please do either look at fliplet.com reports or /reports, or just send me an email and we'll make sure a copy is sent out to you. Let's have a look at some of the most interesting stats that I found during the report. 38% of legal marketing and BD professionals said that their competitors were more advanced in digital transformation. I thought that was staggering because when you're talking about your competitors and what you're seeing others doing, you always want to be at the firm that's at the forefront and doing things differently and really leading the industries. And I think that's a very high percentage. 32% also said that their competitors were more customer focused. Now, when this report goes out and the managing partners start having a look at the different reports we've got, I think they're going to be interested in that. We do have 3 different reports. One was aimed at marketing and BD, one was at IT, and one was at managing partners. All 3 reports will be available on our website, so please do feel free to have a look. Again, according to the report, there was 3 things that that marketing and BD leaders said that would help to improve the firm. The first was a UX-driven tool, so something that the actual marketing and BD people can use rather than the technology that is used or owned by IT. They wanted stuff that can really make custom solutions for their clients, as opposed to trying to get a square brick into a round hole. And also analytics. Lots of tools nowadays have analytics, but they wanted everything. They wanted as much analytics as possible to really understand their clients as best as possible. So here's a quick couple of stats for you to give you an idea of numbers. Obviously, Fliplet is a prefab app building platform. In 2017, so 3 years ago, there was 178 billion applications. That's a crazy amount. I pretty much think my son has got most of them on his iPad at the moment. But in the next 2 years, that's likely to grow to over 250 billion, a 45% increase. Now, these apps have to be built somewhere. Well, Gartner predicts that the low-code application building would gather more than 65% of all of their apps. That is a huge, huge number. And that by 2024, 66% of big companies will be using a minimum of 4 low-code platforms. Now, that's quite astounding. Going back to, go back a few years to where it all started, there wasn't that many business apps. It was more consumer style. These three firms have all recently updated or bought or launched their own app building platforms. So Power Apps has been around for a long while, but it's been brought up to date. Google just this year bought AppSheet, and Amazon just last month launched Amazon Honeycode. These are all app building platforms designed for businesses to rapidly produce apps. They all have their own kind of features and benefits, strengths and weaknesses. Obviously, I'm not here to talk about any of them. I'm here to talk about what we do. So Fliplet is a prefab app development platform. What that basically means is it's a mix between no code and low code. Someone completely non-technical would be able to produce an app. But if you are more technical, you can build on top of our platform because we have an open source element, which means that it's not restricted. It's very, very flexible. A lot of the components have been pre-built, allowing you to simply drag and drop them into the relevant screen. We take care of all of the maintenance and we look after the security aspects as well. So it really allows you guys to focus in on the value that the applications are going to deliver, whether they be for internal purposes or whether they be client facing. We've also worked with over 50 law firms, as well as the likes of Deloitte and Accenture. So we're very much in the enterprise space, but that's my quick intro into who we are, in case you've never heard of us. Let's now move and introduce the real reason you guys are here is to hear from the experts. Jacqueline, over to you.
Great, thank you so much, Mike. I'm Jacqueline Mattering. I'm the Associate Director of Marketing Technology and Operations at Blank Rome. In my role, I oversee the marketing and business development technology stack within the firm, and my team and I execute and implement the digital strategies that pretty much align with BD. I joined the firm a little over a year ago. It was May of last year. And since I joined, we've launched about a few apps that one I've really been kind of involved with marketing and BD, not necessarily the person developing the mobile app. And now currently working on a couple other apps that's going to be on the horizon. So what I'm going to do is actually talk about my experience using Fliplet and just kind of share that case study with you. So the first one is going to be Blank Rome State Tracker web app, which is the app that we launched at the start of the pandemic. It really was to address client needs and understand client needs. And so we wanted to react quickly and launch something that would provide as a resource or a tool that we can give to clients. The second one that I was heavily involved in and actually developing the mobile app was the LMA's Mid-Atlantic Regional Conference app. For 2 years, I was co-chair of the Mid-Atlantic Regional Conference, and last year was my last year co-chairing the conference. So last year, we talked to several of the committee members. I formed the technology committee, and I'll share that with you later today. And we wanted to provide something like in a form of a mobile app that the attendees can also download and just use. Easy access without having to print out agendas and really, just try to save paper as well and all the printouts that we would normally do, and they have quick access to that information. Next slide, please. So the Blank Rome State Tracker app is a user-friendly tool that provides up-to-date details on state-by-state shutdown orders. We have an employment checklist, individual and corporate tax information, and landlord-tenant implications. So this web app was developed at the start of the pandemic, as I had mentioned, because we wanted to address our clients' needs, immediate needs around the pandemic. We saw many COVID task force pages from other law firms when we launched, and we launched one too at Blank Rome, but we didn't really find a tool that clients can easily access to get to the information that they needed. So that's when we had the idea for a state tracker mobile app that we would then launch, that we ended up launching a few months ago. Our project timeline, as you can see from start to finish, was less than 2 weeks. This included the many phone calls that we had with the partners to understand their needs and objectives of such a tool, and us gathering data and creating an internal database to allow for automation and also efficiency. After understanding the needs of our clients from the conversations that we had with the lawyers, we immediately created a strategy around the development of the app. Ideas were bounced around whether we should launch this as a mobile app or a web app, and around the content that we would then include and then curate. So we reached out to Fliplet as well, just to gather some additional information on who else have launched something similar, because we did want to stand out. And like I said, it's really just addressing the client needs rather than being a lot more generic and broad and something that we would then publish. We wanted to have the flexibility for this mobile app, as we saw it as a tool that would continually evolve, and look forward for the tool for addressing that directly in the mobile app, in the web app, and then also addressing those client needs as the needs change throughout the months. So let me do a quick walkthrough really quickly of the core team who really helped launch the app. We don't have many team members who actually develop and build out apps at Blank Roam. And so identifying the resource internally who can take the lead was very crucial to us. A lot of the questions that I often get from some of my colleagues are, how many team members do you have in marketing technology? How many team members do you have to really kind of build out this app? And I will say that there are probably only 2 to 3 people from IT and marketing technology who have that hands-on experience of developing such an app. But because it is a low code and no code, it was a lot easier for us. It makes it a lot easier for us to really deliver something and have that very quick turnaround. So after the conversations that we had, as I mentioned earlier today, we involved several key team members. The core team were IT, marketing, BD, and then also our competitive intelligence. Our CIO created a database in SharePoint so that that's where we can enter all the information that we had gathered, all the data that we had gathered. And a business development manager took the lead in really entering all that content into SharePoint. We wanted to build that integration directly with SharePoint and then also with Fliplet, as I had said earlier, to allow for that automation and then also for that flexibility. The BD manager and then the CI person from marketing and business development took the lead in gathering the data. And we had several resources where we could gather all that data, including some of the resources that some of the associates had started to collect. And so we wanted to put everything just in one place prior to launching the app. We set up that integration, as I mentioned earlier. The content does get updated now and even before daily by the business development managers, just to make sure that we keep it up to date. Next slide. So this is what it looks like on a mobile device. If you have your mobile device with you, the vanity URL is included below if you want to take a look at it right now. And as I had mentioned, this is a web app. So this really is also a website. You can view it directly on your desktop since we launched this as a website. We thought of designing for mobile and then also for desktop users. So there are different interactions that do vary when you go directly to your mobile device when you're viewing this, to viewing the website or the web app, or when you're viewing it directly from your desktop. And a lot of those clear call to action and search filters were also taken into consideration. As I had mentioned earlier, addressing client needs was important to us so that users can then get to that information very quickly. So the homepage, as you can see here, pretty much, it gives a little bit of an overview what the web app is, what the state impact tracker is. The menu that I am showing here, we're not sharing a lot of information because we really wanted this to be a resource and a tool and get to that information quickly. Like I said, we designed for, clear call to action and really just thinking of what that journey is going to look like for someone who then visits the web app on a mobile device and then also on a desktop. We listed out all the different states. We identified what are the different search filters that one may potentially search for in order to get to that information quickly. The fourth slide I have here, which is California, it shows California. It expands a little bit more. So when you kind of tap on that or click on California, it then expands and it tells you what it is, what information we are providing, which are the state and the shutdown and reopen orders. We also have the extension details for taxes as well, and as I mentioned earlier, and the landlord and tenant implications, which we then added later due to the needs and requests of our clients. We also uploaded a checklist for a user, and this is a checklist that we also have in a PDF format. So we thought, what would be an easy way when someone's on the website or a mobile device, and what's an easy way for them to go through that checklist? And the call to action, which you can't see right now, is really the additional information of like, who are the key contacts that you need to be contacting as you kind of go through this checklist for different issues to consider. Next slide, please. So as I had mentioned earlier, we designed for the user and really incorporated ways to make it easy for the user to use. I think that's so important when you are developing a mobile app, of really put your hat on of, you know, how am I going to use this? What would it look like when I actually use it on my mobile phone, on an iPad, also if it's a web app, if it's going to be on the desktop. So we wanted something to provide a lot easier. Like I had said, it's a web app, so you don't download it directly from Apple, iTunes, or Google Play. And so in a lot of our campaigns, when we announced this, we included very specific instructions, and I included a screenshot here. If you're an iOS user, if you're an Android user, and you're opening this directly from Chrome, this is how you can save it directly to your mobile device so that you have access to that information immediately. And it does look like one of the apps that you actually have on your phone. As you saw on my first screen, I showed what it looks like on my mobile device, which honestly can't even tell whether it's a web app or not. I just tap on that information and information is really up to date. Next slide, please. So when launching a mobile app or a web app, I think it's really important. So for us, we had less than 2 weeks to really act quickly and talk to the key stakeholders, the partners who are really leading this initiative, and help identify the goals and objectives. The goals and objectives are really addressing client needs and what were their current needs right now. There are a lot of sites out there on task force resource pages, and we have one, like as I had mentioned earlier, that was set up to be really a resource center that had a lot of information. And so we really wanted to kind of pinpoint it down to what is the goal and objective for having this app when we develop it, and whether it's a mobile app or web app, and what's that experience going to look like for someone. Clearly identifying who the core team members are. As I mentioned earlier, there aren't a lot of people on our team and in IT who can develop mobile apps, but it's so crucial to really identify those team members who can then help you get to the end, to the finish line and actually launch the app. Getting the buy-in of stakeholders and management is also really key and important. We set up that integration directly from SharePoint to Fliplet so that we can avoid, all the manual entry that we'd have to do directly in Fliplet. And then really the business development manager doesn't really have to go into the production site in order to update the content. It's really just feeding directly from a SharePoint database that goes directly to the mobile app. And the updates are pretty much almost immediate once we push things out. It was important for us to also clearly create a strategy about what's the drip campaign calendar going to look like, and creating that calendar of how we're going to announce this, who we're going to send this out to, what are the different content or digests or alerts that we're currently producing right now, and really helping identifying that audience as well, that very specific audience, so that we can let them know that the app had actually launched. We set up a just at the beginning stages before we actually launched this externally and announced it, we sent the link to the key stakeholders who are really taking the lead on this, just so we could also get some feedback from them. So I remember, I think we sent it on a Thursday or Friday, and then by Monday of the following week, the app had then launched externally. But that allowed us to really get additional feedback from the stakeholders. Are we addressing all the needs? As a marketing person, as a digital person, I tend to look more for the user journey. What's that digital experience going to look like? What's that UX experience going to look like? And then really kind of focusing on that. The IT side is really, whoever's our director of innovation who then build out the app, we're really thinking also about what the technology. And like I mentioned earlier, it's setting up that integration directly from SharePoint database. So it's also key, we reached out to Fliplet because I wanted to gather some data of the other law firms who had launched something similar, and then we wanted to take a look at that. And if there are some ideas that we could perhaps borrow from another firm, then that's something that we also looked into consideration. And then again, like I said, once you actually launch something, you need to allow for that product to evolve. I mean, when we launched it back in April, it was addressing the shutdown orders. And then slowly the state started to reopen. In April, it was also key for us to include the tax deadlines because that was one request that we received. And then just recently, we added the landlord and tenant implications there as another option. So it's really how do you address that and how do you then announce that, include that into the different campaigns. The plan, the timeline, the checklist, the launch plan checklist, I stress that all the time with any project that I really work on, or anything that I work on, because it's clear, it's so helpful to visualize that and share that with the rest of the core team members so everybody clearly knows what their roles are. And then also just hitting those different milestones is so important for us just to make sure that we get the information out there. Next slide, please. So aside from the State Tracker web app, which is not available via Google Play or iOS, it's just a website. Like I had said, when you visit the website, you can see what that looks like as well. We have also recently launched 2 internal mobile apps. So one of them is the BR Return, which is really a mobile app that is available, and we manage this via the MDM, the mobile device management. So anyone who has a mobile device and has MDM directly on their app, they can access this app and really download it directly. The BR Return is a mobile app that we developed internally. Our IT team is actually the one who led the launch of these apps. And it's an app when, opening the offices, when you come into the offices, making such requests. I don't think we're the only firm who has something like similar to this. And so kind of showing to you what that BR Return app looks like. So again, this is managed via MDM. The second was is the Be Recruited, which is another internal app that we did develop and also manage via MDM. So last year, the firm held an innovation challenge, and the marketing and business development team members won that challenge. So in that challenge, it was identifying a tool, creating a tool, what innovative idea do you have so that we can provide something internally or externally. So Be Recruited is a digital app platform that promote recruitment events, job openings, mentorship opportunities, and firm initiatives so that we can continually to attract talent and easily integrate potential and new employees or laterals into the firm culture. And so we launched this at just about, I think a few weeks ago, we launched this month. Summer associates are now here. And it's an app that we see that will probably continually evolve. And I said, like earlier, allowing for an app to, allowing that flexibility so that you can make those changes later. So what else are we working on right now? As you know, there aren't many in-person events taking place. We have a few marquee events that we used to hold in person, and now we're trying to address those needs. And how do we do this virtually? So an event app, we reached out to Fliplet again. They have an event template that we can already use, but because resources are pretty thin on our end as well, we wanted to get some additional help, and also we wanted to customize it as well based on what the event is, and then also based on what we think the users are going to look for. So we wanted to include live polling, embed that. We wanted to embed Zoom as well, if Zoom is a platform that we end up using for the virtual event. And then really it's, and gamification is another one that we also added there. So we're looking to launch this, I would say probably in the next couple months. And then allowing for that flexibility again, like I said, it's a template that we are looking to build out, and then we want it to evolve so that we continually use this for other virtual events, and then hopefully transition that over to large in-person events. I actually started to create a partners retreat app, but that's currently on hold. And so a lot of the elements that's already in place with those templates, we're probably going to end up using for this virtual event. An alumni app is something that's also on the horizon, and this is something that we've been discussing internally, is creating that community for our alum. Our alum are important to us because they can refer business back to us, and what are the different things that they would need, such as resources, job openings, and it's really just creating that sense of community where they can easily go to from their mobile device and access that information quickly. It should look a lot different than the website as well that we plan on launching as well in a couple months, so that it's really just all the information, get to the information, get to the information very quickly directly on a mobile app. Next slide. So last year, as I mentioned, I was a co-chair of the Mid-Atlantic Regional Conference, and part of that initiative that we developed early on was, we wanted to launch a mobile app that users can then download right before the event and then really easily access that information. So we work with Fliplet on this and LMA. The platform was already available for us to use, and it was just really building out a template. So how many people do you think built out this mobile app? There were about 3 of us, plus the customer success manager from Fliplet, who really kind of held our hand all the way in building out this mobile app. So here are some screenshots of what that mobile app ended up looking like when we did launch it. Like I said, it's an easy information of, quick message welcoming you, where the venue is, quick access to the agenda as well, and then also the speakers that includes their contact information. The second screenshot that I'm showing here is at what menu looks like. You see a login there. I don't know if you can see that closely enough, but because I was actually doing the screenshots directly from the production stage website, so only administrators who have access to the app can easily get to that information. We talked about sending push notifications as well when they download the mobile app directly, which was accessible via the iOS. Sorry, I saw a question. Accessible via the iOS and then also Google Play, so that we can continually remind the attendees, by the way, the next session starts at this time. We're having meditation right in the morning, and other things. Next slide, please. So the project timeline for this was a little over 2 months. If any of you are members of an association or have served in a volunteer role, we all know that it's really just the time that we can spare, probably at the end of the day or on a weekend, to help with whatever it is that we're working on in the initiative. So this was in a volunteer role. So we had a little bit more timeline, I guess, in developing this mobile app. And the core team members, as I had mentioned earlier, were about 3 of us, plus Fliplet's customer success manager. When we launched this, we provided clear call to action, how to download this directly on iTunes and then also Google Play. And also we built this around so that we uploaded content so that we're not constantly relying on Wi-Fi, so that you have access to that information. I'm sure that some of you have downloaded mobile apps before and you're trying to tap on something on your phone during a conference and that information is not loading. So we took all that into consideration so that that information is readily accessible to you without having to rely on bad Wi-Fi or slow Wi-Fi connection during a conference. I think I got a question from Tom. Let me see. Can you talk about results that show these apps engaging more users than simply posting similar information on your website? Sure. So we share the analytics with our stakeholders, with our marketing management team, and then also the key stakeholders of the firm. So we saw that the different interactions that they were doing on a mobile app, and we can easily see that, and I don't have that screenshot right now that I'm sharing right now. At the launch of this, we could specifically see what information they were tapping into for the state tracker app of, okay, California, they're actually really interested in this. And that was data that we then provided to the business development manager. The business development manager has access to that information. Because it's a web app, like I said, I mean, all the analytics are directly based there. Comparing that to the COVID task force page that we have, where we track visits, page views as well, we can see a lot more detail what that journey looks like directly from a mobile app. What exactly are they doing? Are they downloading a PDF document that we have? So it's a lot easier to kind of drill down to the different information that a user is actually doing directly from a mobile device versus having a website, which is a task force page that we also launched, and really tracking what that journey looks like. And so that was key information for us, and that was pretty interesting information for us to also know, so that we can adjust the different campaigns that we're then including in the digest. So for example, if we can see that a lot of people are really searching for specific words or really trying to filter, such as the tenant and implication ones, we made sure that we include that in the digest of announcing and say, hey, by the way, did you know that this new feature has been added, that we just added this, we updated this, and really putting that forward in front of our clients and contacts in a different mailing list that we use, just to make sure that we have that info. We can also kind of see who, you know, not directly who, I mean, I mentioned earlier, like the number of visits as well, when the spikes are happening also. So when states started to reopen, we saw spikes around there. And then really, you know, and then just sharing that information as well. We use that information to share with a lot of the stakeholders and the partners. Hey, by the way, this information is not here. California is here, you know, Washington, D.C., New York, Philadelphia, the different states that we have. Do you have clients? You want to make sure that you get that information to them in case they are not aware of this web app that we had launched. We wanted to make sure to get that information to them. One of the greatest comments that I didn't include here that we did receive was from a client who then wanted to find a way to embed that app directly internally onto their intranet because they saw it as a resource. There was an email that we also saw from ACC wherein they pointed their members to the State Tracker app as one of the best apps out there where you can easily get to that information quickly of whatever it is that you need. So Tom, I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Jacqueline. That was brilliant. That was really insightful. I think there may be some more questions, but just for time reasons, I think we're going to move on, and we will come back to the other questions a bit later on. But brilliant. Thank you very much. Let's now introduce you to Nathan, who's going to take you through some of his hints and tips. So Nathan, you should have control, and over to you.
Perfect. Cheers, Mike. So brief background about me. I spent six years at a small firm, which is where I kind of really got stuck into the marketing side of things and learned the inner workings of a firm. And from there went further into Taylor Wessing and Bird & Bird, where I spent collectively about 3 years. So it's quite a big jump from kind of 50 lawyers at a small firm to about 1,500. So I've been involved in a big, wide-ranging mix of sizes, and it was more particularly at Taylor Wessing and Bird & Bird where I used Fliplet amongst other tools. So I'm going to run through campaign success and ways to achieve it. That's going to be broken down into initial stage, which is ideas and creativity, second stage, which is tools to use, and I'm going to run through actual tools we used yesterday to launch campaigns. And then finished with a brief section called Life After Launch, which just covers the fact that popular belief is that on launch day, you wipe your hands of the campaign and it's on to the next thing because you've just got so many things going. So I'm going to try and show you a way to make that less the case. So like I said, I spent about 8.5, 9 years in practice, where I learned the complete inner workings of a firm, the structures of the marketing teams. So I completely appreciate the fact that when somebody from an agency has an opinion, it needs to be taken with a pinch of salt. So hopefully I will do that. But yeah, I set up 1404, which is a digital marketing consultancy. And the main goal, is to drive growth by transforming traditional marketing to digital solutions. And our key focus areas are branding and design, content and social media, and then digital development. And more particularly in digital development, the use of low code and no code tools, because it just makes everyone's life probably about 15 times easier. So like I said, today I'm going to be covering the process when launching a product, service, or general marketing campaign. And that can be anything from a new practice area, a new app, whatever it may be. And those broken down into 3 steps. We've got ideas and creativity at the start, the tools to achieve your goals, and then life after launch. So ideas and creativity. This is probably going to become my new favorite slide. I discovered it a few weeks ago. And I think looking at that, if you saw one of those book covers, these were top selling books in 2017. So if you were to look at one of those book covers in isolation, it looks fantastic, it looks creative, it looks bold. But then if you look at them next to every other best-selling book for that year. Quite similar color palette, it's the exact same font. So you can kind of see how this plays into other sectors. So with law firms, quite often we quite like to use client-focused, trusted advisor, but it can get lost in the sea of everyone else. And it's the same with marketing agencies, actually. Quite a lot of marketing agencies seem to like to craft content, but I mean, you write content. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts with that. So that is all well and good, but what is the value of creativity to a business? I know if I had gone to senior partner of a firm and talked about ideas and creativity, the first question back quite rightly is, what is the value of creativity to a business? After a few months of not knowing the answer, I discovered it. The answer is 11. The value of creativity to a business is 11. And this was thought up by Les Binet and Peter Field, which are marketers in the field, and they deduced quite smartly that creativity amplifies the impact of marketing, measured as share growth by a factor of 11, which is quite a big deal. So just straight out the gate, running a normal campaign with less of the creativity, there's a big gap you're missing out there. So I think it's quite important to obviously focus on the distribution, the processes in place, but it is also right at the start, you need to focus on the creativity and the ideas that are being put forward, and to make sure that you don't get lost in the sea of notifications and social media feeds and articles and things like that. So processes and best practices still play a huge part in marketing, as they help busy teams stay on the same page and achieve a consistent flow. But it does need to be balanced with the fact that predictability kills the value of creativity, and using that equation completely wipes out that factor of 11. So it is time to be bold. I think 2008 financial crisis happened across the world, and we saw a lot of professional services in general, but law firms in particular, take a complete change. They started becoming more human focused. They were adding their lawyers everywhere, and it became a real shift in the dynamic and the perception of the law firm. And I think with what's happened over the last few months globally, that is going to happen again. People now know that they can work from home, they can work in comfort, and they're going to need their law firms, their accountants, all of their trusted advisors to fall in line and be able to service that. So a few tools to achieve your goals. Here is a slide that I've put together that hopefully you can take away after this, but I've kind of broken this down into inspiration, which is needed to make sure you're not just repurposing last year's campaign, content ideation, and then the building of campaign products, whatever that may be, content creation, and then distribution. And I've just highlighted a few here. So in terms of inspiration, a fantastic site, sounds very basic, reallygoodemails.com. It basically shows you all marketing emails that have been sent. You can break down by sector, etc. So it really gives you some good takeaways to then start using in your email marketing. I then also have the LinkedIn ad library. So if you go to a company page, there is a tab on the left which says ads. So you can literally see what your competitors, what LinkedIn ads they're running. And it helps to give you a feel for how things are being run there, and you can see how successful they are. In terms of content ideation, again, there's a huge amount of tools there. Google Trends is fantastic. You can start to chime in on rising trends. Google Analytics, again, fantastic one. Looking back on your old content starts to give you an idea for what's performing well and what could perform well later on. In terms of building, so low-code platforms like Webflow, fantastic for building websites really quickly and really easily. Any websites we build for clients, we tend to use Webflow now over WordPress. And then, of course, Fliplet. Can't go without mentioning that. But I spent 2.5, 3 years using Fliplet, building apps for practices, sectors, all across Taylor Westing and Bird & Bird. We launched in total about 10, 15, and that was global apps, internal apps, office-specific apps, things like that. Zapier, which is a fantastic integration tool, and it allows you to build integrations between products without the faff of having to go to developers and IT teams and things like that. So it allows you to test, which is fantastic. Content creation. Video is very popular at the moment and will continue to be so. Content creation tools that I love are Headliner and Lumen 5. And the reason why I've picked both of those is they create videos based on content you've already got. So you don't have to go out and create high-end videos. Headliner allows you to upload content and turn it into a soundbite. Lumen 5 allows you to upload an article, and it then creates a video based off your article. So you don't have to do you don't have to lift a finger, and it produces content for you, which is the holy grail, I think, for anybody in marketing. It's how can I create content without wasting endless amounts of time. Lastly, distribution. Obviously, we've got things like MailChimp and Future. Paid ad is a fantastic route at the moment, LinkedIn ads in particular. So I think it's a case of finding your tools, creating your stack or your toolbox, and just constantly testing, making sure that everything's performing as it should be. And don't be afraid to kind of test other things and go from there. So lastly, life after launch. So I've worked on quite a few campaigns, both in practice and from the outside. And it's quite easy when you have a massive list of campaigns that have to be sent out that month, that year. It's quite easy to launch on launch day, successful launch, move on to the next. But actually, my argument is that campaigns should start on launch day as opposed to end. So launch day was a success, hopefully. 2 social media posts scheduled for the following week. Now it's on to the next task. Unfortunately, things that do have to be addressed are making sure you have a solid funnel in place for each campaign. So you've got touch points for several different sections of that campaign, because sending out a white paper is fantastic, but then what? What's the next stage? Secondly, you need multiple forms of messaging per prospect per campaign. That does take time and effort, but the reward is often worth it. They are working on ways of having AI do this. So you put in the different types of consumer, you put in the different types of messaging you want to get across, and there should be some software, hopefully within the next few months, that spits out 50 different social media posts for you to use. I'm not sure if that'll put me out of the job. Still pondering that. So lastly, can you effectively report on the relevant elements? So a document sent to head of marketing, director, etc., with inflated impression metrics doesn't really cut it anymore. It's very easy to have high impression rates, but it's whether that causes engagement, and whether that engagement then leads to actions being taken. So white papers downloaded, lawyers being instructed, things like that. So I think it's sensible to start thinking past launch date and actually, where is the real value coming from in this? And if the value isn't there, we need to kind of scrap that and move on to a different campaign, which is hard when you've done it for the last 8 years, because I've worked on several of those campaigns, but you kind of see what you can do and you make it work. So that was everything from me for today. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to ask, or feel free to reach out following this.
Thank you very much, Nathan. Lisa, can I ask, were there any questions that came in for Nathan?
Yes, just one. It's any tips on managing stakeholders' expectations when you're trying to be creative? So that is, you're maintaining a balance between the updating the tried and tested messaging that's widely accepted by the firm, but you're also wanting to do something bold.
Yeah, so I think it's a case of, I mean, it does depend on your size. Smaller, you can go and test and bring the data with you. So quite often I would be sat in a meeting with BD teams and the partner leading the campaign. And if you show them what has worked, they're happy to tick that off. But if you show them what could work, and say that you can test that very quickly with a very small group, because you can do that now with very targeted messaging using LinkedIn. It's very quick to spin up content now using Canva as opposed to Photoshop. So I think if you just dedicate kind of an hour and take the results there, I have found that partners don't seem to push back against numbers. They only push back against opinions. So it's a case of balancing that.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Nathan. Really good. So we've got about just over 10 minutes left. So it's going to be a bit of a squeeze, but I wanted to show you exactly how our studio works. And this is a BD pitch and proposal app. It was actually developed by Nathan. He's got experience, obviously, of working in firms. So he took that and he took our platform and he was able to produce this kind of working template. And again, if anyone would like to receive a copy of this to kind of customize and use, feel free. But it was only a few hours. It was a case of let's just put something in to allow people to see how quickly and easily they could produce something. Now, the reasons behind this application is lots of firms use PDFs. PDFs are great, they're fast, you can produce them really quickly, you can attach them, they're small files, and you can send them out. However, they are just static. They can't be interactive, you can't get the right level of analytics and tracking from them, and they can't be updated once they've been sent. You literally have to reproduce them if something changes. So we've been working with a number of firms who have been looking into, okay, look, we've got a pitch deck tool that allows us to quickly put proposals together, but it is just pulling PDFs. So we've looked at how can we do that a bit more dynamically. So we've put this together. Now, this isn't going to be about how you can build this app. It's just showing you what could be achieved and how quickly you could duplicate it to use for multiple pitches that you may have coming up for your clients. So in this case, you can see on the left-hand side, there's all of these kind of top screens are the ones that we're using for this particular demo. But if you was going to be sending a pitch or a proposal over to a client, pretty unlikely they're going to view it on their mobile phone. So straight away, they're going to click it as a link. Your URL would be put into an email. Your client would then click that link. So let's look at it on a desktop. So here, when they first click the link, they're going to open up the web app, and here you can have a little bit of an introduction and a few slides just to tell them a little bit about your office. Obviously, this is optional. You then ask them to log in. Now, this is really important because you can send them their credentials. You can limit it down to only certain people can open this, so it can be highly secure. But it also means that once someone has logged in, you know exactly what that person is looking at. So there might be 3 or 4 decision makers at the company that you're pitching for. In this case, it's Burger Shack. So when I log in as maybe the CEO of Burger Shack, you can see what screens I'm looking at. You can see what parts of this proposal are of real interest to me. Whereas if I was the marketing person or someone else within the business. So the first thing they're going to see when they log in is a nice welcome letter from the lead partner, maybe some information around the key people who would be working on this, and then they can just view their proposal. So as they now view their proposal, we've kept it really bold, really simple. So there's 4 main sections here. I'm going to leave the proposal to the end, but we've got key legal services. So all the legal services that you're going to be offering as part of this proposal, plus all the other services you offer. Well, this is great because all law firms do multiple things. So you want to be able to reference and cross-sell, and you want that at a touch of a button for your clients. Also, a list of where you operate. So you may have multiple sites, multiple offices, multiple different sectors, and you can kind of detail these out in whatever design is in line with your brand guidelines. You can see here that maybe the London office, you can also have drop downs that would include our key contacts, managing partners, the practice areas working out of our London office, plus you can share information or download the brochure on it, all directly from the app. Of course, if they was viewing this on their phone, then they would get exactly the same experience. So using Jacqueline's little trick where you can save it to your home screen as a web app, basically looks like an app, you're being able to get this and put this on someone's phone without having to go through the app stores. So that's a bit of on the locations. Let's jump back into the desktop mode. Some of the key legal services that you are going to be including that are relevant to this particular proposal. And you can see there might be certain areas included. If I was to click into corporate, very similar to the locations layout in terms of you can have an image, you can have your brochures, your overview, who the key people are. But this is what's really interesting, that if you want to update it with your recent work, maybe case studies that you've had, you might have new white papers that you've produced. If you've produced them after you've sent a PDF, you can't then add them PDFs in. You have to send it separately. It gets lost. With our technology, you can simply add it in, and as soon as your client clicks refresh on their screen, it then appears. So it's there and it's live, always up to date. So that's something that can be taken advantage of for your clients. Plus, it's something different. Every other firm is sending PDFs. You're sending them a very interactive tool. What else can we do? So let's just assume now we want to jump into the actual proposal. So what is it that the ABC Law is proposing or going to be working on for Burger Shack? So this is excited to put forward a proposal for Burger Shack for the sale of 30 units. And here we've got a drop down with a list maybe of all of the 30 units that are included. Some recent information and work, the team that's going to be working on it, and if they agree, fantastic, they can click to proceed with the matter. Now, this is up to you as to how you take on new business, how you intake and how you do KYC. But here you can see that you can put the relevant information, whatever it may well be. I can even sign my name if I want to. And then I can click submit. Submit may then open up a new screen that really supports that KYC. So here's your onboarding. So fantastic, we're working together now. This screen may not be automatically available. You may want to do some processes in the background. But now I've got onboarding. So I can ask whatever questions, I can ask them to upload their relevant documentation. And again, I can get signatures if I so wish. But a great way to complete and engage and update information that's all being collected in a very secure way and fed back in. There's lots of other features included within this application, but we've kept the home screen in this example very simple because it's one main objective. However, we don't want to waste the opportunity. So in the menu, there are additional things that we can add in. So things like a document library, being able to share company news, hints and tips, actually get in touch and chat with a lawyer if you want to. So lots of other features can be included, but you just want to leave it hidden away because you don't want to distract away from the main proposal that's there. So just before I go on and show you how you would use this multiple times, because we have just got a few more minutes left. Lisa, are there any questions on this proposal or pitch app demo?
Not as yet.
No, fantastic. Okay, so let's assume then that this pitch app demo actually has a screen for every single one of your services, one of your practice areas. Potentially, you could have an individual screen for every one of your partners. In the instance here, as we mentioned, that there was the relevant people involved in this team. If I was to click into any of these, it does open up, and in here you can have the full biography, all of the information relating to how amazing Jane Smith is, all of their experience and expertise. But if we were to go into the edit mode, you can see how quickly everything can be edited. So let's say we was looking at the proposal document.
Just jumping in slightly. So in response to the question I had earlier was how do you get things, how do you present things to partners? I think I always found if you could blow their mind with something like this, you could then sneak your other creative bit in there as well. So things like this, yeah, really go towards helping that. Thanks,
Nathan. So let's say this proposal agreement, if I simply click on it and we've got additional fields that we want to include in here, it really is as simple as highlighting the area that you would need. I'm pretty sure this is running slow. It's 5 o'clock here, which means my son has been given his iPad for the day. He's now allowed an hour before bed, so everything's going to be running a touch slower now. But it's a normal form builder. It's drag and drop. You just add in the new fields that you need. Really easy to do. You can see here. So I don't need to have the sex of the person, so I can just simply delete that field. If I want to add in something new, it may be, let's pick some nice tick box, and I'm going to drag that into here, click on it, give it a name, and this would be, you know, email, comms preference, and in here we can put email or text. Hit done, hit save and close, And now your proposal has been updated, as you can see here, comms preference, email, text. I can jump straight into the preview mode to test it. And now you can see that I can choose whatever my preference is. So really quick, really easy. And to publish this, let's assume that I've taken the master copy and I've only copied out the relevant slides that I want to produce this new agreement for Burger Shack. I then simply go to publish and click on publish as a URL. And if I click that link, this app is now published live. I would then be able to edit this link to suit whoever your client is, or you could embed it into your existing website if you so wish. But all of the analytics now become available. So as soon as they start looking and clicking on it, every single app has its own analytics, so not notifications. Of course, you can send push notifications out on native apps if you wish, but the app analytics is now being loaded. Of course, I've only just launched it, so there is not going to be any data for you guys to see, but you'll be able to see how many times it's been viewed, how many interactions. Each user, you'll be able to detail into what have they looked at. So who's the key decision maker? Have they actually read your white papers or not? What's the screen that's of most interest for you to go in and update? So really good analytics around what people are finding of interest. I'm conscious that we're at time. So unless there's any more questions coming in, Lisa?
Yeah, just a couple. You mentioned that Nathan created this app. If we were to come up with an idea and we think others could benefit from it, how can Fliplet support that?
That's a great question. So we are always on the lookout for new ideas. Recently, we launched an app called the Return to Office app. I think Jacqueline mentioned it earlier on, the BR Return. So lots of other firms have taken that, but that wasn't our idea. That was firms talking to us saying, look, we want to bring people back to the office. How can you help? We liaised with lots of different people. We took that idea, we turned it into a template. What that basically means is if you've got an idea, we can create. So if anyone wants to open up a free account on Fliplet, please do just go to fliplet.com, open up a free account. You can then look at all of these templates that we have available. You can see the Return to Office one is here. If your idea is valuable and could be used by multiple firms, let us know. We can build it out into a template, and then we can add it to this gallery so that any law firm can go in, take your template, and then customize it for their own needs.
Great. And just one very quickly question for Jacqueline, if she's still able to answer. How do you manage requests for apps from around the firm?
Sure. First, I want to chime in really quickly about the development of templates. So the event app that I talked about, addressing the virtual event that we have, there is an event template that I've already used for the Partners Retreat before. And so we reached out to Fliplet about building something out that's a little bit more customized and expanding that or enhancing the features. So, I mean, that's just one thing. You know, we had tons of other ideas like gamification, like polling, embedding Zoom directly there. And these are conversations that we're currently having because we see it as more than just a basic event app that similar to the one I launched for the Mid-Atlantic Conference, but something a lot more really for the users. How do we manage that? The request usually comes in through either the marketing or business development or through IT, depending on what that request is. So for BR Return, that came direct. That was an innovation challenge winner. IT is kind of the one who helped lead that and developing that with the help of the winners from marketing and business development, branding, communications, and marketing tech were actually the team members who won that challenge before. So really, I think it's having those conversations, right? Like the state tracker is a perfect example. At the beginning, we thought, well, why are we launching something when all these law firms already have something similar? Do we need a website? Is it just a basic website? Can't we just put that on the COVID task force page? So those requests are usually, you know, they come in through the business development team. They then talk to us, innovation and marketing technology, to find out resources and identify who can help and assist. And then we flush out all the details. So the conversations, like I said, it starts with BD, usually for marketing BD, and then they bring us in, myself and then director of innovation, to then start having that conversation. Then we start to think, okay, well, I think we can build this out into an app, and how do we do that? But we also want a website. So I think having those conversations early on, like I said earlier, you know, with the core team members who are really going to be involved, is so key and important, because then you can easily identify what that strategy is going to look like, whether an app will be really the best tool to provide, or whether that can be accomplished from just having, you know, a link on the website that people can access to. And what are you looking for as well? So we can't see the person to person, each person interaction, because we don't ask for login. We wanted something that was going to be quick and easy for people to access. But for the virtual app, we want login, and we're also doing some personalization, because there are some key contacts, VIP, high value contacts we have, that we want to send different messaging around to. So we want to be able to track the different interactions. What are they doing? We want them to allow to create their profiles so that we have access to that information as well, and then feed that directly into our CRM system so that we can analyze that data and then figure out what's the next step. So hopefully that helped address that question.
Brilliant. Okay, we're at time. Thank you ever so much. Thank you to Nathan. Thank you to Jacqueline. Really great. This recording will be updated. It will be hosted on our website for people that want to see it. Thank you all for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.